How many people is the Queen?
How did the Crown let the Queen down in 2004?
What vehicle can the Queen do a spot-on impression of?
And what does the Queen have in common with Aquaman?
She's Jason Momoa? Is that it?
She is Jason Momoa.
Yeah, cool.
And her dad is Tim Morrison.
Nice!
Yeah, right?
Hello everyone, welcome to, what's this thing called again? Everything you didn't need to know about. Today we are talking everything you didn't need to know about the Queen. Queen Elizabeth II. Of course, we will be telling you our favourite facts that we found out about the Queen, and at the end of the podcast we will be voting on our favourite ones. Who will win? Will it be Thom Adams? Will it be Jewell? Will it be Nathan Kenny? Will it be Sam Smith? Will it be none of us? Will it be all of us? No, it'll be one of us. Jen, how many people is the Queen?
How many people are the Queen?
Really hard to figure out what version of the verb to be to use in that question as well. How many people are the Queen? How many people is the Queen?
She does say we are not amused, which implies
Exactly,
a
she
plural.
uses a rule. Because legally, the Queen is 16 different people.
Whoa, she can
It's
play her
16
own
people.
rugby team.
But she's grown, so when she ascended to the throne, she was only 6 people, but now she's 16.
This is terrifying because at this rate, by within 1,000 years, we will be all Queen. The Earth will be all Queen.
Yeah.
Everyone on Earth will be the Queen. So this is because the Queen is obviously a human being, despite what David Icke and his ilk would tell you. But she is also a legal entity. So she is the Queen of New Zealand, the Queen of the United Kingdom, the Queen of Canada. And there are 16 Commonwealth territories, including the United Kingdom. And she is the Queen of each of those is a legal person. So if New Zealand and Australia went to war, then as the head of state, the Queen of Australia would have to declare war on the Queen of New Zealand or vice versa.
Very interesting.
We have 2 monarchies in New Zealand as well, which is quite unusual. But we also have the Kingitunga movement.
Right, of course.
At one point in the mid-2000s, we had the second longest reigning English monarch as our monarch, and we also had the longest reigning Maori monarch as our monarch.
There's also Mike King. So there's 3.
There is also Mike King, to be fair. Yeah.
I met him, we're mates.
Until 2006, Te Arikinui Dame Te Atairangi Kahu, she ruled until 2006 when her grandson took over. So she ruled for 40 years, which is pretty cool.
Amazing. I do the audience warm-up on Dancing with the Stars. The guy who was going to become the Māori King came to the show. I sang.
Did you sing Just Can't Wait to Be King?
I sang, I'm gonna be the Māori King, so enemies beware. And he was not impressed. But
He was not amused?
like
Did
3
he
people,
say we are not amused?
he didn't say anything to me. He thought I was an absolute dickhead.
He said, we are not amused.
Hey.
Oh, that's good.
The Queen was her coronation was on the same day as something else that happened in history. Do you guys know what?
Please say to the first day of Coronation Street.
First colour broadcast television.
No, that was June the 1st, 1960.
Was it Edmund Hillary getting to the top of Everest?
Well, I thought it was, but apparently, I've thought that my entire life, but apparently that happened on the 29th of May, and then her coronation was on the 2nd of June. Whereas I'm sure we got told that happened on the same day, but I think that the news of that got to the Queen the day that she was crowned. And so it led me to look further into more things that happened on the same day or around the same time. And so I found out that Aldous Huxley, C.S. Lewis, and JFK all died on the same day, but that was all overshadowed by the fact that JFK died on that day. And also Doctor Who premiered that day. And no one gave a shit about it because JFK had just died. So they then replayed the Doctor Who episode a week later, and then it sort of blew up from that.
Awfully, it was that episode was about them going to meet JFK, so they really had to do some edits.
Really awkward.
Guys, we're going to do something that's going to blow your mind.
Groucho Marx also died a couple of days after Elvis Presley, and no one gave a shit about Groucho, which is sad.
Oh.
Yeah. John Adams, the American president, died on the same day as Thomas Jefferson, the American president. It was 50 years to the day since they signed the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson died earlier in the day, then Adams died later in the day, and his final words were, Thomas Jefferson survives, because they were fighting, and he was like, damn it, I haven't outlived Thomas Jefferson, but he did. So his final words was him being wrong.
I kind of love that you're so petty that your last words are like, dang it, I didn't outlive that other guy.
My final words are going to be, Nathan Kenny lives.
One of my favorite facts is that the brother of the Bronte sisters, he's not famous for anything else. Bramwell, I think.
Oh, Bramwell, yeah.
He had a bet with a group of friends that he couldn't die leaning on a mantelpiece. So he just, for the few weeks before he died. And then he died.
Oh.
But no, speaking of the Queen dying, which obviously is very sad, no, as at the time of recording that we are aware of, she is still with us in the land of the living. I think it's her grandfather, his death was hastened so that it wouldn't be reported by a disreputable paper.
Oh.
He was declining, he was on his way out, and his physician made the decision to give him a massive overdose of morphine because they were worried that if the king lasted, because normally most people are born and most people die between 1 and 4 in the morning. Something about the human body, that's when we're kind of most vulnerable or whatever, and it's when babies come out and when corpses pop off this mortal coil. And his physician was worried that if they missed the deadline for the Times, the king's death would be reported by like the Daily Mail in the morning. And so he gave him an overdose so that they could meet the king's death could be published in the Times, which was like the establishment newspaper.
That's incredible.
And he's written about this in his diary and was like, oh, yep, so I did it. You know, he was definitely going to go in the next like day or so, and just bumped him off quickly.
Whoa.
He must be one of the more like recent examples of regicide.
There was an assassination attempt on George II, but I don't think any kings or queens in Britain have been killed since Charles II.
There was an assassination attempt when the Queen was here in 1981.
Yes.
Really?
A teenager tried to shoot at her with a .22 rifle. And
In
missed.
Dunedin, I think.
Yeah. So
Was it a tiny David Bain?
Hmm.
No, he would have been like 6, I think.
I can't imagine him like camouflaging well looking at those speakers.
Imagine if the Queen had been assassinated in New Zealand. Like, we would have never lived that down with other Commonwealth countries. Like, that would have been the thing that we were known for. Was like, oh, New Zealand, you killed the Queen, and we were like,
Or would it be like when they killed the Wicked Witch of the West and everyone was free? I might edit that bit out.
We would have had Charles. Yeah, we would have had
Staunch Republican there, Sam. My dad protested at his well, not like officially protested, but he nearly didn't get his New Zealand citizenship because he refused to swear the oath of allegiance to the crown.
Oh.
Your dad's British?
Yeah.
Yeah, but when we moved to New Zealand, he had to do the citizenship thing to get your New Zealand citizenship.
I've
He's sort of already baked in.
Yeah.
No, he's
I got a
Cornish.
tattoo.
Oh, okay.
There was a Cornish Independence Party contesting at least the 2016 election. I don't know if they contested the 2020 election, but their primary platform was to physically separate Cornwall from the rest of the UK and then motorboat it to the Mediterranean for better weather. They're not an entirely serious separatist movement, but
man, that's a really hardcore motorboat.
Yeah, just the phrase motorboat it to the Mediterranean is just wonderful.
I think they had in mind a double meaning when they penned that.
I am sure they did.
Because they're one of the Britannic countries, because when you go back in British monarchical history, the part of France that's called Brittany is so called because it was part of Britain for a long time. Like the top of France was quite often under English control in sort of, the 1,000 years between 1066 and
2066.
Yeah, sure, let's go with that.
Maths, I can do that.
Brexit's next step is re-annexing Brittany in the early 2030s.
Like, isn't it France that took over the English bits in 1066?
So you've got all the kind of transfers of power from people who are the kings of Britain but are the sons of the king of France, and it's all very
It was interesting because the area of Brittany is well known for its long arms. It's long hafted weapons, the Brittany spears. So
did you guys know that the Queen is actually super funny? She's really good at accents. She apparently does a killer Scouse accent, but
she did an
apparently
amazing Queen accent.
She does the Queen accent spot on. Apparently, the Bishop Michael Mann has said the funniest thing he's ever seen is the Queen doing an impression of the Concorde landing. Yep, that's the Concorde jet coming into land, which I went and watched a video of this afternoon to see what it sounds like. It's actually just like... I don't know how anyone can make that sound, but apparently the Queen can do it. It's an amazing fact.
I bet she drops it out of like during services and things. Like it's like sitting there and it's like, and the Lord did say.
Sometimes the staff at Windsor Castle are like cleaning up in some of the unused rooms, and they just hear it coming down the corridor, and she's on a little go-kart.
Well, she was a mechanic in the war and stuff, so you know, like she probably had lots of. Do you know what she did? Like after the war was declared over, World War II, she went on like a 4-day bender.
Yeah, with her sister.
With Margaret.
Out there going, woo!
They've made a movie about that. It's called Girls Gone Wild. That's not true. I think it's called like A Royal Night Out or something like that.
It's not particularly factual.
You know Harper Lee, who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird?
Kill a Mockingbird?
She is a couple of days younger than the Queen. And you know Hugh Hefner is like a week and a bit older than the Queen. So that's how you know to put those people in the same sort of context.
That's how I can remember how old the Queen is. It's because I just remember how old Hugh Hefner is or would be. And then I go back a little bit.
No, you go forward a little bit. She's younger than Hugh Hefner.
One of the things I really like about the Queen, coming from the Commonwealth, because I was a wildlife tour guide for a while, and so we would talk about the black swans, and I'd be like, so if you ever see a white swan, they belong to the Queen. And I looked at what the Queen owns, because I knew the white swan thing, and that's really funny, because it's like every year they do this thing where they go and like count all the swans on the Thames, and with the swan uppers, which the Swan Uppers, like that sounds like a band or like a basketball team. But the other things that she owns is within 3 miles of the British coast. She owns all the whales and dolphins, which is why she's like Aquaman.
Yes!
That would have made a big difference in the war, I imagine, if she could like summon whales. Like imagine that, like Hitler's, all the ships are coming over, and then she's like, wah! These whales start like merging out of the ocean, and the Kraken arrive.
They did teach dolphins to check for bombs on ships, didn't they?
I don't think she did that though.
No.
I love the idea that the Queen has taken over from all the Japanese research on whales. She's like, I'm going to figure this out now. And she speaks to them. She makes whale noises under the water, but instead she just does an impression of the Concorde. Yeah.
Which is amazing, because there's that one whale that only makes the sound of the Concorde and has not been able to find a mate, and she's just there teasing it, just teasing that whale.
This is a good segue for my fact, actually. She owns a lot of stuff, but in 2004, she or her staff wrote to the government and said, I see you're giving pensioners winter fuel payments and giving them like 40% off their heating bills. Can you do that for us? And the Crown said, no, you're rich. So the Queen or her staff wrote to the government and said, I spent about £15 million last year.
Eating my 6 palaces.
They thought about it, and then they said, maybe this would look bad.
It's interesting though, because the Queen pays income tax. She doesn't have to. She just pays it for fun. So,
do you reckon if she came to New Zealand, she'd get a gold card?
Definitely.
I doubt that she'd be going on the Fuller's Ferry out to Waiheke Island. She'd probably,
I don't know,
get a helicopter or something.
She'd probably get the gold card, like the card that everyone it's just a pay limitation.
Gets you a suite on the Inter-Islander. You get one of those cute little cabins with bunk beds.
One of my favorite things about the Queen is her relationship with Philip, and the whole thing is that he's the prince. They were together.
Just because they're married. That's your
favorite. Dropping information on us.
But he's the prince. He was the Queen's consort, and like there's a lot of things that he couldn't like give to his children. Like his name, I think, was one of them. And there was like a thing that really, really upset him, and so she actually changed convention, and his name, his name was a thing that he could give to his kids. You gave like Charles's middle name as Philip. It was just, I thought it was really sweet. They seemed like they were quite a sweet couple.
Yeah, it seems like they were actually like properly in love. Like she was, I think she was 17 when he first proposed to her.
Yeah, but she was pretty strong-willed, it sounds like, because, she wanted to get married when she was 17, and her parents were like, nah. And then she turned 18, and she was like, right, I want to go join the war effort. And her parents were like, nah. And apparently she just kept annoying them. And eventually when she turned 19, they were like, okay. And she put those skills to good use because she used her driving skills, which she developed in the, what's it called? The ATS. She put them to good use and terrified the then Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia when he came to visit her at Balmoral.
But she doesn't have a driver's license.
She doesn't need a driver's license. She's
Doesn't
the only
need
person
one.
in the UK who doesn't need one.
I, for one, am not looking forward to Charles being on our money. Like,
It won't be Charles. We won't have King Charles III.
Oh, we'll have a
You think-
different name. Do you reckon?
Yeah, he's chosen a different regnal name because it's felt that Charles I and II didn't set a great precedent. So he's chosen a different regnal name. But I think it's an Edward or a... I don't think he's going to go with like Jackson with 2 X's or anything. I think it's going to be something pretty standard.
I was looking up popular names in 2003, and I found Samuel, which I think is a fairly common name, was like 54th, which I thought was quite far down the list. But number 51 was Caden, Caden. Caden? That beat Samuel. I can't believe it. The world's turned to shit.
So my daughter's middle name is Elizabeth after my grandma. My grandma's the queen. Sorry, this is a bombshell.
Ah,
My
that's
grandma's
so
the
cool.
queen. I'm quite far down the line though. More so now that my nephews and nieces have been born. But every time she sees the queen on like TV or stuff, or on the, but when she was like first learned about Elizabeth the queen, she's like, oh look, it's Elizabeth.
That's great.
Like it wasn't the queen, it was Elizabeth. It was so sweet.
Did you know that the Queen has her own poet, personal poet, who gets paid £5,750 a year and a barrel of sherry?
That's pretty good.
is this the same thing as the poet laureate?
Yes,
Or
that is the
this
poet laureate. They get paid in a barrel of sherry.
The Queen's mum used to get through barrels of gin, so maybe it's just handy to have the barrels around. It's like so it was trick-or-treaters coming around last week. Maybe the Queen's like that, like, what the hell do we pay them? Got a barrel of sherry.
But it was weird. Like I saw in the news recently, this like the Queen has her is seen with a walking stick for the first time in 2 years. She is 96 years old.
Yeah.
That she doesn't have a walking stick all the time in the first place is amazing.
Yeah.
Although, by some counts, wouldn't she be 160 something? Because ever since she became the queen, she has 2 birthdays a year.
So yeah, she became the Queen when she was 25.
Yeah.
And now she's roughly 100. So yeah, she should be 175.
And she's multiplying
Good going.
at a rate.
Oh yeah, and she's like
Terrifying.
16 people. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
She's a billion
And
years
she
old.
gets
Yeah,
some in
she has
Wales.
32 birthdays a year. But I looked into why that is because I suddenly thought, why is the Queen's birthday on the same day every year when we all know she's actually born in April? And it turns out it was because George II was born in autumn, and everyone kind of went, oh, it's a bit of a shit time to have like a celebration. So let's just have a different one.
So Stephen Hawking was born on the 300th anniversary of Galileo's death, but he died on Albert Einstein's birthday, which is the 14th of March, which is Pi Day.
It's pie.
Yeah.
3.14.
Albert Einstein and Stephen Hawking. No, Albert Einstein's birthday is Pi Day, and Stephen Hawking died on Pi Day. Did you guys know that the Queen has like the coolest playhouse ever? It was gifted to her when she was a child. It's a full like 2-storied cottage, but scaled down to be the size for children. And it was gifted to her by the people of Wales, and it's incredible.
To be honest, the Queen could just sort of play in whatever country she owns, right? Like,
I mean,
Yeah. She should play. She could play in a swan.
my favorite story about her, which I'm not entirely sure how true it is that after England won the Cricket World Cup in the early 2000s, she was seen by an undergardener walking through the gardens looking very happy. And he kind of said, good morning, Mum. And she said, I've won the cricket.
As a New Zealander, I'm banning you from talking about cricket after they
no cricket.
stole. Oh my God, I'm furious about that.
They didn't win the cricket. At best, they drew it. The players hadn't crossed as they were running back when the time they threw the ball in, which means that run didn't count, which means it didn't need to go to a super over, which means New Zealand won the Cricket World Cup.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. Full game, many overs, lots of runs.
Oh, I
And
hate
then,
this
we'll
bit
see you
that you
next
do. I hate it so much. Did you know that when the Queen got married, her tiara was broken and it was glue tacked together when she actually got married because she broke her tiara the day of.
I like to imagine that's because like Philip sat on it or something. When she was doing her Women's Auxiliary Transport Services gig, everyone was like, oh wow, she's mingling with the common people, but she ate most of her meals in the officer's mess and went home to Windsor Castle to sleep every night, so maybe not that.
She is a person of the people.
She did do some good work though, apparently, and she was promoted within a few months to Junior Commander Windsor, which is pretty cool.
Seems like an easy win the way. Like, we're going to promote the Queen.
Yeah.
We're going to promote the Queen. No, we can't. We can't promote the Queen.
But she's also the last surviving head of state who served in World War II, which is pretty cool.
I think we've got to wrap up now and vote for our favourite facts. So quickly, let's just go around and remind everyone.
The Queen tried to be a welfare queen.
Queen is 16 people.
The Queen can summon whales and dolphins. She owns them.
And of course, the Queen could do the perfect impression of the Concorde jetliner. All right, on the count of three, let's vote for our favourite fact by pointing to the person who we think it was. 1, 2, 3. Tom, you have got 3 votes, my friend. Congratulations. Well done.
Woo! Thank you all for listening. It's been a wonderful time. If you have more facts that you'd like to share about the Queen or just good memories, please put them in the comments below. Subscribe to us on Spotify. And we'd love to see you next week when we talk about something mysterious.
What are we going to talk about next week? Guys, what are we going to talk about next week?